My name is Jill Coyle, and from years of experience as a divorce attorney, I know for a fact that no one dies from divorce. The experts and I are here to show you how to not only survive, but thrive during the most difficult times. Welcome to another episode of No One Dies from Divorce. This is a very special edition with my pal, Michael Weiss. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks, Jill.
So today we are tackling one of the hardest subjects out there right now, and it's Suicide Prevention Month. And if anybody knows me, you know that one of the biggest things that I do within my charity work and that I do on a personal side to raise awareness for is suicide prevention. And Michael is an advocate as well. And we're going to talk a lot about some personal experiences today to why we wanted, but with it being Suicide Prevention Month, we wanted to do this to let you know, and this is what our shirts say, that tomorrow needs you, that you are loved, that you are worthy, and that suicide is never the option. So Michael, you guys all probably remember, he is my paralegal for my MoxieLaw group, personal injury. He is such a valuable asset to our firm. But he also, if you have been listening to our podcast for a while, if you have not listened to Michael Wise's podcast, please go back and listen to that. His personal experience about divorce, about the effects of it, and the how you can go from being what you think is a mentally strong person to be a mentally weak person, to start thinking about suicide and maybe thinking that you're not worth it and that this is the only way out, can happen in an instance. And Michael's here to tell you that tomorrow needs you, and those thoughts are only fleeting and should never be what drives you forward to think that nobody else loves you or that you're not worthy or you're not deserving of staying here. So Michael, let's talk about a recent experience that you had in your personal life that made you really want to talk more about suicide.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that great introduction. And yeah, I was there 20 years ago. It's been a long time for me, but I've been there. And I was just thinking recently, just last week, I've got a 16-year-old son now with my second wife. And he's going to be getting his driver's license next month. He just went to the school and filled out the paper. He's got his little permit that we're going to be putting on his car so that he can drive himself to school and park in the school parking lot. And that never would have occurred to me that I would be here today. And tomorrow needs you because you don't know what tomorrow is going to be like. It could be so much better than what you think it is. And yeah, this recent experience that we had was just a few weeks ago in my church. So on a Saturday morning, we got some information where our church leader was asking us to fast. For people who aren't religious, that means that basically you go without food to show God that this is really important to you and that you're wanting something really important. And what had happened was this young father, he was in his 30s, had two kids. He had gone missing on like Thursday before. Nobody knew where he was, and they couldn't find him. And they asked us to fast for him. And later that Saturday, they put together like a little search group, or they asked for volunteers to come out and help look for this guy. And so we went out looking for him. My son and I drove around. We didn't find him, but when we were on our way back from our assigned area, we heard that they'd found his truck. And that was all they found was his truck. And then Saturday night, they said, look, we're going to go Sunday morning at like 6:30. We're going to meet up in the mountains at this trailhead where they found his truck. And if you are, outdoorsy, if you like to hike, then you're welcome to come and help. Later that day, we were in church. His kids were in church when a friend of mine got a text that they had found him and that he was dead. And I found out a little bit more about it, and there's no question that it was suicide. And when we were first, getting together the search group on Saturday, somebody had mentioned that they heard that he and his wife had been talking about divorce earlier that week. And that's why it was so important to me to come to you and talk about this subject, this podcast, because what you do is so important, Jill. When you say no one dies from divorce, I truly believe that no one dies from divorce. And it would be easy to look at what happened with this guy and say, he died because they were talking about divorce. He died from loneliness. He died from despair. He died from a lot of things, but divorce is not what kills people. And suicide is not the answer to divorce.
Right.
I am, again, I'm living proof that you can get through it, and there is more on the other side for you.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. A statistic that I can throw out is that more teens die of suicide than car accidents and gun related deaths per year.
Mm-hmm.
We are losing so many people to this horrible disease. And the sad thing about it is every single one is preventable. Car accidents,
Absolutely.
you can't, deal with that. Cancer, it's a numbers game, right? But this is something that can be preventable, and we need to be talking about it, and we need to be discussing it, and we need to be getting real and raw about it, because suicide is just a fleeting moment. It's just an absolute where somebody feels like, they have nowhere out and they make that decision. And the problem is, I was just going to say, the problem is when you make that decision, there's no changing it.
Right. Yeah, you can't go back. And it is a decision, and it is preventable. But hopefully some of the things that we talk about today is things that get you to that decision, that get you to that moment. Because when you're in that actual moment, your state of mind isn't normal, and you're not thinking great. And it can happen very quickly, but there's some steps that happen along the way that get you to that point. And there's places where people have opportunities to help, where you have opportunities to make different choices. And I hope that we can talk about some of those and let people know that nobody is alone. You are not alone. Your life is not over. There are people that care about you. There are people that will help. There are people that want to help you. And you don't have to carry that burden yourself. When people get to the point where they're contemplating suicide, it means that they've just got more than they can handle right now. They just feel like they cannot do it. There's nothing that they can do to fix it. And this is the only way out. And that's just not true.
And all we have to do is get you to tomorrow.
Yes.
And, there's a lot of funding now going into suicide prevention. And one of the biggest achievements, I think, that happened this year is that there was funding to be able to get the national suicide prevention number. It used to be this big, long number that we would have to give you, and nobody's going to remember that number. But now it's as easy as remember 911. It's 988. Mm-hmm. And that wouldn't affect in July. And there is always somebody on the other side of the phone. So whether you're having these thoughts, you're, just, feeling exasperated, or you are to the point where you want to do this, call that. There's going to be help right there to talk to you and let you know that you are valued, that tomorrow needs you.
Yeah, it's such a great resource. And we'll talk more about it later, but sometimes it can be hard to reach out to people. And sometimes you're ashamed and you don't want to reach out to people that 988, it's just 3 numbers in your phone. Everybody's got their phone with them at all times. And you can talk to somebody anonymously. You can get to somebody right away, anytime, day or night. 988. It's such a great resource.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for it. So we are going to talk about 5 things today that you can do to help you realize and feel like tomorrow needs you. I mean, I know we keep saying that, but it's so important for you to realize that even in your darkest moments, if you get that flicker of hope, if you get that flicker of understanding that you are worth more than what you think you are, that there are people that love you, that there are people that value you, it could save a life. So that's what we want to do here today. So go ahead and let's summarize the 5 things, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to just, not just talk about it, but we want to give tools and things that might actually be able to help, things that you can use. Number 1 is promise not to do anything right now. Number 2 is don't keep your thoughts and feelings to yourself. Number 3 is make your surroundings safe. Number 4 is to allow for the possibility that it can get better, or at least allow for the fact that there can be hope and happiness again for you. And number 5 is to avoid things that make it worse.
Yeah, I love it. So let's just dive right in. So the first thing he said is promise not to do anything right now. I can't tell you how important it is to separate your emotions from the actions from that moment. We're always teaching our kids, like, does the reaction warrant the result? So you're having a meltdown over not being able to get a popsicle. So as adults, we teach them that that is not the appropriate, reaction to whatever they're requesting. And that's what we're here to reteach us as adults, is that you have to try to separate that emotion and realize that your actions are, or the result, suicide, is going to be way larger than whatever the, actual emotion or trial that you're going through.
Yeah, just take some time, just to, people used to say count to 10 or, whatever, just take some time, just relax a little bit. Another thing to separate out is what's important from what's urgent. You might feel like, hey, this is really obviously whatever got you to this point is a big deal. It's really important.
Mhm.
But you might feel like this is urgent. I have to do this right now. And there's a difference between things that are important and things that are urgent. And an example might be like medications, like your doctor prescribes you some medication. Well, obviously, it's important that you take your medication, but it's not urgent. You're not going to take the whole bottle right now. You're going
Mhm.
to you're going to remember to take the medication at the time because it's important, but it's not urgent. And there might be things that you're thinking of um, that you feel like it's important. You feel like it's the right thing to do. You feel like this is what I've got to. Okay, but the most important thing that I think people need to hear, that I want people to hear, is whatever you're thinking about, you can do it tomorrow. You don't have to do it today. You can wait a little bit. It's okay to take some time. Um, if you're doing if you're doing if you're doing something, again, if you're doing something important, just make sure that you're doing the right thing. And thoughts are temporary. And sometimes we feel like, well, this thing is really important right now. And then we sleep on it. And then tomorrow you wake up and you're like, oh, maybe that's not as big of a deal as I thought it was.
Well, and you have to be careful not to apply a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I always say, like, everything's figure outable, and suicide is a permanent solution. There's no fixing everything else that's going on. And everything else going on, I know divorce is hard. I know that there are people that lose jobs. There are, people that get sick and lose loved ones. Like, there is no doubt that life is hard. But when you choose to end your life, that's it. And we are the people left behind, are the ones sitting here thinking, why couldn't we fix this? Like, everything is fixable, but there's not even a chance to do that. So if we can
Right.
just tell you to, just slow down,
Mhm.
we'll get you help. Don't choose this in the immediate of your emotions. We're going to get you through this.
Right. Just give it some time. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. My wife, when we heard about this guy in my church, when we heard that it was suicide, she said, well, now he can't fix anything. He
Right.
deprived himself of the opportunity to do anything now. He can't do anything. And that's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah, I love that. So the second thing is don't keep your thoughts and feelings to yourself. This is tough. And this is why. Because we live in a very, very patriarchal society. It's just, it's, ingrained in our human existence, I swear, since the time that we existed, to where, men can't have feelings. They can't, cry, that they're supposed to always be this like stronghold, person that is supposed to keep it all together and be the financial provider. And they're not supposed to talk about their feelings. And because of that, an uptick in men committing suicide is there. And we need to just change that. I mean,
Yeah,
guys,
because
get out there and talk about your feelings. It is okay. There's a lot of us over here standing up saying, yep, I'm ready for that. And I'm okay with it.
yeah, because men have feelings too. And we're absolutely, it's in some societies or in some groups more than others, particularly like people in the military, people in law enforcement. Some of these typically really male dominated areas, particularly is this concept that you can't share your feelings, that you've got to be this stoic. But even me, I'm not in that category. Neither was my dad. But that's kind of how I was raised. Is that feelings are not okay,
Yeah.
and men have feelings, whether they're okay or whether you think that they're okay or not. You have them, and when you can't express them, then what do you do with them? And that's when it kind of all builds up, and there's this tremendous weight on you. And we need to get over it. We need to talk. We need to talk to each other. We need to talk to somebody. Again, 988. If you feel like you can't go to your friends because they're going to think that you're weak for having feelings, and having feelings is not a weakness. But if you feel like your friends are going to think that and you want to just talk to some random person, 988. But
It's
reach out to
totally
someone.
confidential. It's never, it's going to only be there so you have a safe place to talk. And I'm really excited for 988 for these kids out there that are being bullied, that are, different and not feeling like they are being accepted in society, that they have a safe place that they can go to as well. Because once you start talking about things and you start kind of hearing the rationale behind some of your thoughts, that's when your mind can sink into listen, again, the reaction is larger than the emotion here. And let's just talk through it and let's figure it out. And that's with your example of your guy in your ward. It was the same, we created a charity and we contribute to a charitable cause for one of my husband's colleagues who committed suicide. And he had younger kids as well. He had been divorced, a little bit, like a year and a half, but things were just not getting better. And he just, one day just felt like there was no other plausible way than for him to do this. And again, I think that, mental health isn't talked about a lot, especially in the medical field. And it needs to stop. Like, we need to be okay with sharing our thoughts, sharing our feelings, and we need to not be judged by it. And if I can be the leader or the, another champion that says that we as a society need to wake up because it's killing people, I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's okay to need help. Uh, all of us have times in life where we've got more than we can handle by ourselves, and that's okay. It happens to everybody. It's okay to need help. It's okay to reach out. Whatever got you to this point, it's a big deal, and you need help with it, and you need a strong support network. And it would be great if there's friends that you could trust, or family, or even just acquaintances, or a spiritual leader. But don't be ashamed to reach out and to talk to somebody. And if the first person that you reach out, the first person that you talk to isn't helpful, try again. Don't just be like, oh, well, that didn't work. And then, whatever, keep trying, keep talking. And when you're in that position, Jill, you feel like nobody's going to care. Nobody cares about me already. Nobody's going to care what my problems are. Nobody's going to want to talk to me. And you can find out, what if they do? Maybe you're right. Maybe nobody cares, but what if they do? can you at least reach out and can you give them the chance? And one of the important things when you are reaching out to somebody and you find somebody that you can talk to is that you need to be direct. And again, with our society, people kind of hint around at stuff, and you need to be direct and not, hey, Jill, I'm having a hard time. And hey, Jill, I don't feel good. What does that mean? If I come to you and say, hey, Jill, I'm having suicidal thoughts, or Jill, I'm thinking about killing myself. That's a whole different thing. That allows you to help me because now you know what the problem is. And
Right.
if I'm not direct, you can't know what's really going on.
Absolutely. And by being direct and using those words, you're going to get people listening, people moving in on you, which is what you want. Like, they have done studies of people that have tried to commit suicide and haven't been successful. And overwhelming, the statistics are that these people did not want to die, that they just were in a
Mhm.
fleeting moment. They did it and they're grateful that they didn't die. That's what people are feeling at that time. So be direct. Because if you say, I have suicidal thoughts, people are going to listen. People are going to be there for you.
Absolutely.
The next thing you want to do is you want to make your surroundings safe. This is pretty, I would say, logical, but obviously when you're having suicidal ideology and you are having these thoughts, a lot of logic is out the window. But it's very, very simple. If you're having these thoughts, then we're going to do some things to reduce what you can do to keep yourself safe. So the first one is restrict your means of self-harm. Get rid of guns, knives, alcohol, pills, ropes. Ask a friend if you can just give it to them for a little bit. But removing the things that you're having in your thoughts to be using makes it so that in that fleeting moment, it's not this easy go-to thing that you can grab and then it's done. And again, regret
Mhm.
decisions that you can't have regret because you're gone.
Right. It
Um,
just gives you just a little bit of time. I was talking to a friend of mine who used to be a police officer, and we were talking about this a little bit, and he told me that they advised him when he was a cop, when you go home at night and you're putting your gun down, take the magazine out. So you take the bullets out of your gun when you put it down, because just those couple seconds that takes you to put the bullets back in your gun is enough for you to slow down a little bit. So
yeah.
if you need to take whatever it is that you're thinking about and give it to a friend and just say, hey, can you hold on to this just for a couple of days? And also, if you're in a bad place, you need to leave whatever bad place that you're in at that moment. And at that moment, your bad place could be your house, it could be your bedroom, it could be the safest place that you feel like. But in that moment, if it's bad, if it's negative, then just go outside, walk around, um, do some exercise, do something. Um, Something that sounds kind of silly, but I'll tell you what helps me on occasion when things are really bad is I will hold a tree. And I mean, I'm actually like grabbing onto the trunk of a tree. Uh, and sometimes, people might drive by and like, what's this guy doing? Whatever. There's something about trees. There's a permanence about trees. There's a grounding about trees. And for me, it helps me to kind of center myself and feel steady and feel like there's something when everything is spinning around me, all these thoughts in my head. I don't know what to do, but I can hold on to this thing that is permanent and is friendly. Uh, but whatever works for you, if you need to go and take a walk, need to take the dog out, whatever, just get to a safer space in that moment.
Mhm. Absolutely. And if it's not clear, you need to identify the source of your suicidal thoughts. So, when is the first time you remember feeling like this? Was there an event or a change in your life before you started feeling like this? Do you feel worse after a particular trigger, such as drinking alcohol or, watching a movie or something, or having an argument with your wife or your spouse? Um,
Yeah, when you're talking about divorce and you're thinking that your life is over and I'm going to go and kill myself because my wife is going to divorce me and I'm going to lose my kids and my life's over. That one's pretty clear, but there's other things that can get you to where you just feel overwhelmed and it kind of builds up slowly, and maybe you're not even quite sure how you got here, and thinking through it can help you to identify what the issues are that need to be worked on. And you can also create a contact list. Everybody has their contacts in their phone, but I don't want to scroll through 50 people to try and find somebody that I'm thinking, I might be able to talk to. Find a few people and create a separate list in your phone so that these people that you can count on, the people that you can trust, the people that are not going to make fun of you, the people that are going to take you seriously and going to be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then find that person that you can talk to regularly. Everybody has somebody. And if you don't have somebody, a therapist, they're amazing. And they're there to advocate and champion for you. So find that person that you feel comfortable talking to about what you're feeling and, the heaviness of the world. Cause I get it. Sometimes the world is so heavy. When I'm stressed, Michael, I turn to food. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just something that gives me comfort. I enjoy good food, and it raises my endorphins to make me feel better. And so, in those times when I'm feeling stressed, I sometimes say, you know what, I don't care that this isn't healthy. I'm going to eat a chocolate chip cookie. So doing something that first of all gives you comfort, brings in those endorphins to make you, which brings in natural happiness or natural flickers of hope. And then finding that person that you can regularly talk to. I think those are really, really important.
Yeah, somebody that you can check in with. And I don't judge you for your chocolate chip cookies. Sometimes I like cookie dough myself. um, but you can make like a coping kit. When you feel like you just can't cope, you can go to your coping. If it's got your chocolate, if it's got your cookies, maybe it's got pictures of your family. Maybe whatever it is that makes you feel good, whatever it is that raises those endorphins. And when it gets bad and you need that, I'm not going to judge you for it, and you shouldn't judge yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing we want to talk to you about is allow for the possibility that it can get better and for hope and happiness. Now, this is obviously, if everybody kind of had those moments of hope and could bring themselves back to center of, okay, it's okay, things will get better, then, suicide's just not going to happen as much.
Right.
Um, we understand that mental illness is real, that it's not necessarily you making those decisions. It's not necessarily, you know, it's a darkness in your brain that's overtaking. But but most people, especially that do commit suicide, are only having situational depression. They're a lot of times they're not ongoing depression, or it's a moment of fleetingness. Something happened that made them just like all of a sudden drain in despair. So they can look back and see that they had some good moments, or they had things that were positive in their life. And if you can grasp on those, and you can really, really just say, okay, just back here, I was doing okay, and this is why, it gives your brain the ability to move forward.
Mhm.
But we want to be very, very clear. Mental health is studied so much in the United States. There are so many medical diagnoses and drugs, prescription drugs to help you out of mental illness. So if that's you, if you are really struggling with mental illness, please seek help. Go to a therapist, go to your provider, your primary care provider. Let them know how you're feeling, because the drugs will take your brain out of that mental state and put you back on track to be able to manage and cope your emotions and your day-to-day tasks, and it makes things so that they're not overwhelming. So I wanted to really just throw that out there, that we're not just saying that this is all, unicorns and candies, like this isn't just
Yeah.
like you can just start thinking and then all of a sudden you get out of it. No, we understand that mental illness is real, but please reach out today, if you're having any kind of thoughts of suicidal ideology, or if you're having thoughts, if you want to self-harm, if you are not even feeling yourself right now, go talk to somebody about it.
Yeah, dial 988, whatever you need to do. But we're real about it, and we understand. I've been there. There's lots of other people that have been there, and you realize we know that if you're there right now and we tell you, things are going to get better, no, you're just going to completely ignore us because you're thinking, no, they're not. They can't possibly get better. How can this ever get better? That's never going to happen. And what we are asking you to think about, and what we're asking you to just take a second to listen to us say is, what if it can? What if there is a possibility that it can get better? What if there is a chance that you can be happy again? Just a chance. Can you just wait a little bit and just hold on and see if maybe there is a chance that it can get better? And this is big. If it's sometimes it is a treatable mental health thing, sometimes it's just stress, but whatever it is, it's big, and we understand that. And if you can reduce stress, as much as you can, that can help. This is not something you can get into this quickly, but it's going to take a little bit to get back out of it. It's not something
Absolutely.
that, if I'm there today, tomorrow I'm going to be all happy. My life is great. No, it's going to take some time. But if you can reduce your stress as much as you can, sometimes a routine can be really helpful when you've got everything going on in your head, everything that you're trying to think about, that you're trying to keep track of. If I can at least not have to worry about when I take my dog outside, or when I'm going to get up, or when I do certain things that I have to do every day. If I've got a routine, then that can help me to get to, okay, my dog needs to go out at 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
I can wait until 7 o'clock so I can take my dog out. Other things that can help when it's a little bit less acute, when you're starting to get a little better, is to try a new hobby.
Mhm.
Um, when I was divorced, I remember I was in my 30s, late 20s, and I decided that I was going to learn to skateboard. I had never skateboarded before in my life, and I found a couple of teenage kids in the neighborhood. I'm like, hey, can you teach me how to skateboard? Trying something new can help you to have that hope to move forward, can get you out of that depression that, hey, there's something for me to do. Keeping a journal was something else that can be really helpful. That was helpful for me. Again, you've got all these thoughts, you've got so much in your head. If you can get them out and put them on paper, it feels really important. Maybe it is really important, but you don't have to
Mhm.
hold on to it in your head right now. Just write it down, put it in a journal so that you know it's there. You're not going to lose that important thought that you had, but you don't have to hold on to it in your head right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Um,
connect with the world. I mean, this is an
mhm.
opportunity for you to center back. You know, like really get to know your senses and see the beauty all around. Like, we say that, like, there is beauty all around, there is good all around. And sometimes it's so hard to see because the news and media and social media, all they're dealing with is the bad. But right now, if you can just center back and realize, look around you, there's so much good. There's so many good people in this world doing good things. If you seek after that and you start kind of just like getting back into the center of humanity is good, that there is good in human beings, that there are a majority of us out there that want to do good, it can center you back to realize that you are valued, that you are something, and that you are worth living for, because we want you here. We need you here.
We need you here. And that might take a while also, but even just in the moment, if you just take a drink of your soda, you're like, hey, hey, that tastes pretty good. Kind of focus on the taste or the sounds, or that music sounds cool, or, whatever that can get you more centered with what's going on and a little bit more out of your head. And as far as the possibility of it getting better, I felt when I was first going through my divorce and realized that my marriage was over, I thought my life was over. But
Mhm.
again, divorce is a new beginning, and I had no idea that my life would be where it is now. And I had no idea that I would be happy now, but I am. And a divorce creates opportunities, and regrets suck. And if you are depriving yourself of the opportunities that are there for you tomorrow, um, that sucks.
Right. And if you're that person sitting there and thinking, nobody knows what I'm going through, nobody understands the pain I'm feeling, I'm sorry to tell you this, but trust me, there are lots of people out there that know exactly what you're going through. And then when people are like, well, you just, how can you say that there's life after divorce? Because I see it. And
Yeah.
I have seen the pain of divorce, and I have seen the hopelessness and this, how scared people are. But I am a living product of being able to see the result of that. So if you're sitting in your loneliness thinking my situation is different than anybody else's, I promise you it's not. There is a whole community of people out there that want and are willing to talk to you about their experiences and to show you that there's hope. And Michael is the perfect example of that, because he looks at his life now and thinks, man, when I was getting divorced, I never even could have imagined that I could be at the level of happiness I am right now. So
Yeah,
he's
and
living proof.
I I'm older than a lot of people, and I'm a little bit further down the road. But I've been there, and I know how it feels. And there's a lot of people that know how it feels, that you can talk to, that you reach out to. That when you do reach out, I think people will be surprised at how many people understand what they're going
Absolutely.
through.
Absolutely. So the last thing that I want to talk about is that we want to talk about is avoid things that will make it worse. This is so very, very important, because a lot of times when we're feeling pain, the first thing we want to do is stop the pain.
Mhm.
But I want to talk about pain for a second. Pain and fear are actually two very good emotions as human beings that we need. People are like, no, I don't want pain. I don't want fear. No, pain alerts us to our body that something is wrong. So if you're feeling this intense pain, that is good, because it's reminding your brain that something needs to be fixed and you need to then take action to fix it. And fear, it's the same thing. Fear keeps us safe because it makes us make decisions that are going to protect us. So if you're feeling pain and if you're feeling fear right now, that's good. That's not a bad thing. That shouldn't be taken into effect that I don't want to feel this pain anymore. So now I'm going to do something to get rid of the pain. You want to be able to fix it, but you want to do it right. So the first thing you don't want to do is you don't want to turn to alcohol and drugs to numb the pain. Because at
Yeah,
the end of the day,
they frequently just make it worse.
oh, yeah, because they're just a cover to really actually fix the pain. And eventually the pain's going to come back because you're not doing the work to actually fix the pain or get rid of the pain. You're just, numbing it for a few hours. And
Right.
then when, the next drink doesn't numb it as much, then you do 2 drinks and then 3 drinks until eventually, you're so, using so much alcohol and drugs to cope that you're either, going to kill yourself, or you kill somebody else by, making bad choices, or you have inebriated yourself so much that your brain's not even able to make good choices, and therefore you make a rash decision like kill yourself. That makes no
Right.
sense.
Exactly. Even just a couple of drinks of alcohol, it affects your judgment. And if you're thinking about some big important decision, and you're going to make some big important decision, take some permanent action, do you want to do that when you're not thinking straight? That doesn't make sense. And so yeah, alcohol and drugs don't help. They make it worse. Um, Avoid stressful places and situations for a little bit. There might be people in your life that will make it worse. I know there are going to be people in your life, or maybe even people that you don't know, that are going to be helpful. there might be people in your life that are going to make it worse. And stay away from them for a little bit. It's okay to be a little selfish right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if you're going through a divorce and your wife is or husband are a trigger, step back and stop
Yes.
letting them trigger you. That's the best thing about divorce, is that if your spouse is the trigger, you're getting rid of the trigger. So just remember that that's a good thing, because we want to get rid of these triggers that put us in these spirals of feeling hopelessness.
Right. And your spouse knows you really well, and they know how to push your buttons.
Ooh, yeah.
And if they know how to trigger you. And it, yeah, you don't have to answer that text right now. You don't have to answer that phone when they're calling right now. Just put it aside for a little bit. Avoid those kind of stressful situations.
This is such an important factor too. You have to get enough sleep. So my husband used to work in a psych ward. This was years ago, but he would always talk about how healthy, successful people would come into the psych ward all the time. And I was like, how did they get from being these like people that can manage so much and then come into the psych ward? And he was like, number one reason, lack of sleep. Sleep deprivation can put your mind on the edge. So if you are not getting enough sleep, you are allowing your mind to get to a place where it is not going to make rational decisions. So you need to sleep. They recommend your 7 hours of sleep as an adult. Like, do what you can to get that. It's so important. It keeps you mentally fresh, and it keeps you from being able to do, you to mentally degrade based on the fact that you're tired.
Yeah, that's crazy. Your husband's experience that, that it can get that bad. I used to, I used to look at sleep as like a design defect. I'm like, why do our bodies have to sleep? We waste so much time when I could be getting so
Sleeping, I
much
know.
other stuff done. But now I've realized how important it really is, and it truly is important to get your brain actually, like, physically. There's stuff that happens in your brain that like clears stuff out so that it allows you to think better. Your body needs to heal. It only really heals when you're sleeping. There's so many things that I've learned sleep is important for. And it can be hard when you're just laying there trying to distract yourself and you're just scrolling through Reddit or whatever at 11 o'clock at night. Put the phone down and go to sleep, because it's
Yeah,
really important. And you'll feel so much better if you do.
absolutely. And that goes to our last point, which is it's okay to be selfish right now. If you're feeling, you're having these feelings, you're struggling right now, guess what? I am giving you full permission to be selfish. You take care of you, number one, because you are important and you need to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. As human beings, we spend so much time caring about other people, what they need, and dealing with their needs. Guess what? Right now, it's okay. You take care of you. And we're going to be right here in the background, cheering you on, taking care of yourself, because you're going to be here and we need you.
Absolutely. You got to take care of yourself when you get on an airplane, and before they take off, they give you the whole safety thing. And they tell you when the oxygen thing drops out of the ceiling or whatever, if you're with a child, put yours on first, and then you can help your child, because you've got to take care of yourself. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're not going to be there for the people that need you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're going to give you the best tips or that we can do when you are that person that wants to help somebody that's in need.
Yeah. If
Um,
somebody reaches out to you, what can you do to help?
yeah. The first thing is you need to make sure you're supportive and not judgmental. Just being dismissive, being judgmental is only going to make it worse. So if you have
Mhm.
somebody that's trying to, talk to you about how they're feeling, you need to stop and you need to listen and be supportive. I think one of the first things we want to do is try to fix the situation. So we want to like tell them what they should be doing. Oh, you should be exercising more. Oh, you should be drinking more water. Stop, because that's not what they need right now. If they're coming to you and actually disclosing that they're having these thoughts, all they need from you is to listen, and you need to take from that and decide what you need to do to help.
Yeah, and not being dismissive. I love that you mentioned that, because that's so important. Because somebody could come to you and they're like, hey, I'm feeling suicidal. And they're like, no, you're not going to do that. You're fine. And
Mhm.
then they came to you thinking, I don't know if Jill is really going to like care about me or pay attention to me. And then when you're dismissive like that, then they're like, see, I was right. She doesn't care about me. Don't
Yep.
be that person.
Don't be
And
that person.
and don't be judgmental. Don't judge them. Just accept them for who they are because you already know them. They're already a friend. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming to you. Just care about them.
Yeah. The next thing is encourage them to seek help. And I'm going to go one step farther and say that if they're not willing to seek help, you help them get help. Whether it is continually talking to them, checking up on them, getting them into therapy, or calling the 988 number if you yourself don't even know what to do to give them help, because they've disclosed to you. So you need to take on that responsibility of making sure that you help them if you can. I mean, obviously there's only a certain point and that you can offer help out. And then, if they're never going to receive it, then it's on them, but you need to do what you can to try to get them to get help.
Right. We're not psychologists. We're not professionals. I don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm happy to admit that. I don't know what I'm talking about. And they need somebody, if somebody comes to me with a broken arm, they're like, hey, Michael, I broke my arm. I don't know what to do with that. You
Mhm.
need to go see a doctor. You've got this big thing that's going on that is important that you need to get professional help for.
Mhm.
And going along with that is to not promise to keep it secret. They might come to you and say, hey, I don't want you to tell anybody. This is just between you and me, but I'm thinking about killing myself. You can dance around it a little bit, but don't promise to keep that a secret. Even if you do promise to keep it a secret, don't keep it a secret. Help them
Mhm.
to find the help that they need.
And then the last one is just help them remove dangerous items. So if they are coming to you and they're disclosing this, go to their house and be like, hey, I'll take your guns for a while. They'll just be at my
Mhm.
house, or, help them get rid of the items that are triggering them or could lead them to, make that rash decision. But, take a little, just help them do that.
Right. And again, not be dismissive or judgmental with that. If Jill, if you come to me, you're like, hey, Michael, can you hold my gun? I'm not going to ask any question. I'm just sure, Jill. I'll have it in a safe place. Let me know when you want it back. Don't
Absolutely.
judge. Don't be dismissive. Don't be like, I'm not going to. Just accept them, help them out.
Yes. Absolutely. So with these tips, let's just go over them again because they're so important. The 5 things to do if you feel like you can't keep going. Promise not to do anything now.
Mhm.
Don't keep your thoughts and feelings to yourself. Make your surroundings safe. Allow for the possibility that it can get better and avoid things that might make it worse.
So important to try. Just something. Just just give it a little bit of time. Hang on. Maybe there's something that's down the road for you. Maybe tomorrow will be much better for you, and you won't know if you're not here to see it.
Absolutely. If we can save one life, it will be worth it, because Michael and I know that your life is worth something. And suicide is meaning that your life is worth nothing. Nobody's life is worth nothing. So tomorrow
Absolutely.
needs you. We will be here for you. And divorce is never the reason to believe that you have nothing valued. There is something for you. And divorce is not the end. It's only going to be used as a platform to give you the opportunity to become a better version of yourself that you didn't even know. Michael is on Michael Wise 2.0, and he's a better version than he ever knew.
So much better.
And that's you right now. We have your back every week to remind you of that. And if you ever need anything, you reach out. 988 is the phone number. You can always DM us on our Instagram, Jill Coyle. We will be here for you as well.
Absolutely. Thanks,
We
Jill.
love you all, listeners. We appreciate you and what we do. with Suicide Prevention Month, we want to remind you, no one dies from divorce. Thank you so much, Michael, for being a part of this and sharing a little bit of your story and, for helping us reach out to as many people as we can, because Michael and I, we're here for you.
Thanks, Jill. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for all that you do.
Appreciate it. Till next week. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, follow, and share. I'd love to hear your questions and feedback. You can contact me at community@jillcoyle.com. See you next time. I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. Any advice given on the podcast is general and shall not be construed as legal advice.